Well, good afternoon or good morning. It's a very special episode of Moen After Dark in the afternoon, in the morning for Rock and Rant. It's night. I know we've got fans that are probably watching us at night. I see Jan Holks in the chat. I don't know what time it is in
Yeah,
Slovenia now, but I think we've
it's
kind of
always
hit.
night somewhere for the Mafia
Yeah,
networks.
yeah, we've hit all three time zones in one shot there. I want to thank everybody for coming in and joining us on this special Super Bowl Sunday super show of the Moen After Dark show on College Football Mafia Network. I am, of course, Moen, joined by my compatriot, my co-host, my friend, Rock and Rant. How are you doing today, Rock?
I'm doing good. Looking forward to the game, or at least the commercials, or some combination thereof. Trying hard to figure out a rooting interest in the game, but I think I've kind of chosen my thing. It's definitely going to be Alabama for the victory.
That's Alabama by transitive bowl theory. I like it. SEC undefeated in hypothetical matchups, right? Yeah. I
Constantly.
ended up putting a $10 bet on the game, a six-way same game parlay. With
It's the way to go.
The Eagles with the points, the Eagles on the money line, Mahomes to score a touchdown, Hunt to score a touchdown, Barkley to score a touchdown, Hurts to score a touchdown. $10 bet with a $900 payoff. So we'll see if it hits. I don't know, but I guess I'm rooting for the Eagles now, although I have a sneaking suspicion that the Chiefs are going to pull it off. They've been hyping it up enough. But let's say hello to some people who joined us in here early. Ryan Willie, the evil badger, he says, "Hey CFM, good to see you, Ryan Willie."
What's up, Ryan?
Evil badger in the house, as I mentioned before. Jan Holks here, all the way from Slovenia. Thank you for stopping in, Jan. And he says, "Go Eagles." Sure. The Big Lubbock says third. Good job, Big Lubbock. You got in here at third. Hey guys, who is Koopa? Probably Nate. I'd say Nate is King Koopa. Just based on the big scar he's got on his neck. He's a lot harder looking than anybody else.
Oh, I thought that was like a cheer for like whoever thinks you're going to get Cooper Kupp from the Rams in a trade.
No, the thumbnail's a little shout out to a Super Mario Brothers Super Show.
No, I know.
Bob Swanger's here. He says, "Hey everyone, Bob, we got some bad news for you, unfortunately, but we'll get to that." Dallas Marquez, a member, says Chiefs. So we got an Eagles fan and a Chiefs fan in here. Daniel Gygax says, "Hi everyone. Good to see
What's
you,
up, Daniel?"
Caleb Ramirez is here. He says, "Hi everyone. Good to see you, Caleb." Jan Hulk says refs are going to help Chiefs again. Rock Chalk from the now number 5 recruiting ranked Jayhawks. Lance Leopold is coming for you, and go Chiefs. That's a dual one right there. You've got Jayhawk squawk, but that could also be a baby eagle, I guess.
Yeah, it could. It works.
Mr. Monkey says go Chiefs. We got another Chiefs lined up. Daniel Gygax chimes in and says, "Alabama was screwed by the Super Bowl selection committee."
Completely agree.
Becky Go Husky says, "Fly, Meteor, fly." Ryan Willie chimes in. He's rooting for the Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. And Bob Swanger says, "Moen, I already heard, so we might as well." Let me pop that up here. Here we go. Got to find the right Twitter link. Bring this up here. A little coaching news in college football. This one kind of popped up today. Notre Dame is signing away Penn State running backs coach Jawan Cedar for a similar role. It doesn't say an exact role. Expect the deal to be finalized soon. Cedar has been a valued member of James Franklin's staff since 2018, coaching Miles Sanders, Nick Singleton, and Katron Allen. ESPN first reported. Very interesting because Katron and Singleton both are coming back, or they've announced they're coming back for the season coming up. I don't know when the deadline is to declare for the draft. Is that already passed?
That has already passed, to my understanding. It doesn't mean maybe there's some change that I'm not aware of, but I thought that was a couple of weeks back.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is going to affect those two gentlemen at all. A huge hire for Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman's, the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh. They grab Jim Knowles, Notre Dame, and likewise grabs their running backs coach and co-offensive coordinator. So,
I mean, you can make an argument that a pretty good argument that's he is the best running back coach in America, all in from coaching to recruiting capability. He's, in my mind, clearly a top 3 guy at the worst. I know a lot of people will swear by him. So, if there was a Brian Hartline of running backs, it's him. In terms of like the recruiting prowess and actually the ability to put people in the league, and probably even a stronger coaching resume than Hartline. I know some detractors will say that Hartline is just like a god at recruiting, and therefore he gets the best talent, and therefore it becomes pro talent. But his reputation completely precedes him. So I think it's just interesting in general that this year we are seeing the haves poach the haves for similar roles based off of just a cash offer. Maybe he's getting a run game coordinator added on top, some other assistant head coach thing to warrant that. But definitely an interesting move, surprising.
Definitely, but I mean, it shows Notre Dame is not just going to rest on their laurels. They made it to the title game this season, and they're going back out there. They're hiring a great coach from Penn State, who, again, a team that made it to the Final Four this year. You're right. It's the haves robbing the haves. So, very interesting news. Opens up a job at Penn State now. Ohio State still has their defensive coordinator position to fill. The results of the game tonight will probably dictate who that is. There is a candidate that's coaching tonight that I believe is still in the hunt, and has shown interest, but obviously he's not going to leave until the game is over tonight, whether he wins or loses. So, but interesting news from the coaching carousel. And then, speaking of the Super Bowl, because it is Super Sunday on this Moen After Dark Super Show, I'm going to pull up some stuff here. Give you a little breakdown of colleges and who made it and who didn't. And here we go. This one to stage. Schools with the most all-time Super Bowl players. Oklahoma 7 and Georgia 6 have the most players in this year's Super Bowl. Now, it's important to keep in mind this includes total appearances. These are not unique players.
Right. There's a couple of different versions of this out there that are quantifying the most in different ways, but they're fairly close, depending on how you sort them.
Yeah, I mean, like you've got Michigan's got Tom Brady in there, 9 times? Miami's got Jim Kelly in there 4 times. So I mean, there's a lot of guys. Joe Montana is in there 3 times for Notre Dame. Ohio State is not on this list. It's not that they don't produce NFL talent, but maybe that NFL talent just doesn't go to good teams.
Yeah, and sometimes it's luck of the draw, right? You can also get some teams that have an affinity for players from certain schools, and they fill up lower parts of their roster because they thought that a certain coach was there or recommendations of a key player on a team that can do it. So it's not, but it's definitely interesting to me. The one that's not necessarily the most surprising because the talent was always there. But if you look at UCLA in terms of the total amount of players appearances there relative to just what wins in the last few years, but the program has been around for a while and has had a lot of really great players on there. So it's interesting to see how they rank in this specific category.
Yeah, I mean, UCLA was the one that really kind of shocked me. But then you've got to think about some of the players that have went through there, and they've played in multiple Super Bowls. So
Troy Aikman
being, he played in 3. But yeah, it's interesting list. I was really I'd like to see it expand beyond the top 10. I would like to see what else is out. I'd like to see where Ohio State ranks. They don't have it in there. I looked through the comments. I didn't see it, but it was interesting. So, and then I want to share this with you guys because we always talk about Super Bowl recruiting or 5-star recruiting here on the College Football Mafia. This is a great example of how 5-star recruits shake out in the NFL. And if it'll pull it up here. Former 5-stars on Super Bowl rosters. For the Chiefs, Juju Smith-Schuster, who I don't like. Wanya Morris, Trey Smith, DJ Humphries, Kingsley Sumataya, Chris Jones.
Monster.
And then you've got equal monsters on the Eagles side. Jalen Carter, Landon Dickinson, Eli Ricks, Kelly Ringo, Josh Sweat, Devonta Smith, and Nolan Smith. So lots of 5-stars. You can see why people covet 5-stars when it comes to recruiting college football. Look at how many 5-stars you have on these professional teams.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing that I know a lot will sort of crap on the 5-star thing because they'll use the example like, well, look at, and I mean, Miami's a great example. Ed Reed was like a 2-star as a random example. But everyone has to remember that in theory, in a given year, it's at least become normalized that most of the services only have 32 5-stars, like, which is meant to reflect that if there was no college, those would probably be the high school kids that got drafted in that kind of order. It's a projection of the future. So there's only up to 32 5-stars. So if you look statistically on the amount of 5-stars that become first-round draft picks and do well, there is a correlation. I'm sure there's published studies out there. We could probably have you do that one day. But this kind of shows it, right? Like that's relative to the amount of available players in the 7-round draft plus free agents. That's like a large proportion of kids who are 5-stars in high school actually being a percentage of those rosters relative to the available pool over X amount of years.
Absolutely. I mean, it's super interesting. And you got to keep in mind though, you see a lot of these guys weren't drafted by the Eagles or the Chiefs.
Correct.
Some of them have had off-field issues and found their way there. Some of them are value guys who value championships more than money, and they will go to a contender like the Kansas City Chiefs at a lower rate than they would normally get in free agency. But
I do think most of them were first-round picks. I think most of them, but not all of them, were first round. So some of them didn't, become first-round picks after becoming a 5-star in college. And maybe not this grouping, but in the past, but most of them tend to at least have been high round picks, if not necessarily, Pro Bowl level in their careers, despite that. But they're here.
Yeah. 5-stars pan out sometimes. Sometimes they don't. Let's get back to some comments here. By the way, guys, if you want to leave a comment for us, we try and read as many comments as possible. Go ahead and drop that in there. If you want to give us a super chat, gift a membership, become a member. You can do all that through clicking the little cash icon down there.
I mean, it is Super Bowl Sunday, so
it is Super Bowl Sunday. And we do have a members-only video up, the hurdles that are keeping the Florida State out of the Big Ten. I'm sure, a huge Seminole fan like Rock and Rant was very interested in that. Of course, the 800-pound gorilla in the room that I think a lot of us will talk about in the coming years is 2 teams in Florida is kind of hurting the fact that, one of those teams could make it to the Big Ten. But that's a topic for another time. Becky Go Husky says, who leaked the script for the Super Bowl? I need to know now if I should be annoyed or not. Becky, you make a great point, but I want to say something here because I was talking to a good friend last night. Again, I think they try to minimize this by saying the NFL rigged is making a crazy conspiracy theory, as if people are saying that they actually call the play, build the drive like it's a WWF match. I think it's more the fact that the refs don't want to get balled out for making calls that hurt one particular player or one particular team.
Yeah, I mean, I am not on. I will be the outlier. I am not on that whole NFL is rigged stuff. I am on the NFL has put in a lot of rules for quarterbacks, and within the defending of quarterbacks, they super defend the biggest stars in there in some subtle bias. But that's not the same as me thinking it's rigged. I'm not one of, but I'm never going to be that guy. It's just not my thing. It's my thing to like enjoy the get popcorn while everybody else goes down their conspiracy theories and watch.
And by the way, tell everybody who's your NFL team, Rock.
I am the Jets, so I mean, I have every reason to have a reverse conspiracy theory, right? I mean, I sort of sadly enjoyed yesterday when Anthony Davis, not that I don't want him to get hurt, but when he went out pretty quickly after a stellar first few plays in Dallas, but with a not recent but past injury history. A lot of people were doing the Anthony Davis career in Dallas meme, and they were showing Aaron Rodgers run out with the flag on Monday Night Football. So, I mean, I could have a conspiracy theory that Joe Namath winning one doomed the Jets to never winning again.
Could be. That was a great. Remember, he guaranteed a win.
Yeah, I wish I was old enough to remember that. I've read about it.
You've won one. That's more than my team's ever won. Illini Ted says if you root for the refs tonight, you can't lose. Officiating remains undefeated. That's true in the college and the pro game. Daniel Gagak says, agree, Becky. I don't care for the Chiefs, and my hate for the Eagles started early where I'm a Steelers fan. We didn't know you were a Steelers fan, Daniel. Now we're going to hold that against you.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of weird, isn't it? Like, kind of, in a way, like
no,
transitively.
It's the same way. Western Ohio or Eastern Ohio is very much the same way. You'll go to Youngstown, lots of Steelers fans. West Virginia, lots of Steelers fans. It's just the closest NFL team to them.
Yeah, well, I guess so. I just figured the West Virginia college rivalry with Pitt being so fierce would like level up and somehow cause it not to happen on a pro level.
Right. And I think a lot of it is people growing up, you're going to gravitate to the most successal team.
Yeah. I mean, my second team growing up was the Steelers because I was so sick of every person in my neighborhood with the Jets and the Giants also wearing, a bunch of people wearing Cowboys jerseys. Oh, yeah. So like I became like a secondary Steelers fan back then just because it was counter to, the slurping of the star.
Yeah, back in high school, there was a lot of Dallas Cowboy fans when they started winning games. All of a sudden, kids from Ohio were Dallas Cowboys fans. The great bandwagon fans. Bob Swanger says he agrees with you regarding their running back coach jetting for Notre Dame. Becky Go Huskies says, I don't hate the Eagles, but their fans are insufferable when they win.
Insufferable, period.
I was going to say that's a lot of, and the Giants fans are equally insufferable.
Yeah, I think I can handle. I just want Saquon to win purely because of the wringing of hands of the Giants fans from Hard Knocks in season last year. The coda of it all might just make the Meadowlands implode, and I hate that stadium as a Jets fan. It's a co-owned or co-run facility that basically looks like an air conditioning unit, and so maybe we'll make that whole thing blow up, and they can start from scratch out of like heads being blown.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's, but I think you could do this with the majority of fan bases. Cleveland had the one season with Baker Mayfield where he won a playoff game, and they were Giants for one season,
right,
and insufferable. And then the next season they immediately tried to get, or they didn't try. They got Baker Mayfield out of there and traded for Deshaun Watson, which I still think is going to go down as the worst trade in football history. I think it even trumps the Herschel Walker trade.
Oh yeah, at least Herschel Walker had like gave some value back for a couple of seasons.
Yeah. Just terrible. Becky, they're just as bad when they lose, and if you dislike Eagles fans, Flyer fans are worse. Yeah, you kind of touched on that. Eagles fans just being insufferable in general. Brady counts as 10, I take it. Did he go to 10 Super Bowls? I know he went to a lot. I thought it was
Tampa.
9, but I might be wrong. Hard to believe Kansas isn't in the top 10. This is
they're
football.
probably the top 10 Big 12 teams player counts for the Super Bowl.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. In fact, I can let me pull it up here for the NCAA. I've got the exact breakdown, and we can see how many Kansas has on there from the NCAA. And I might have to go over here. But here's a complete breakdown. Well, look at that right at the top. A Kansas State player. That must make you happy, Mr. Monkey says. But this gives you a breakdown, and I'll post this in chat if anybody wants to go through it. It's a lot, but I will get down to the pertinent parts. Oklahoma has the most players in tonight's Super Bowl. 7 players. Georgia follows it up with 6. Put this in chat real quick. Alabama, Florida, and Michigan each have 4. Clemson, Florida State, Memphis, Penn State, Stanford, and Texas have 3 total. And Cincinnati, Indiana, Georgia Tech, Marshall, Mississippi State, Nebraska, Pittsburgh, Southern California, Toledo, Washington, Washington State, Western Michigan, Wisconsin all have 2. So, and here's some interesting ones. I like this FCS breakdown. FCS in Division 3. You've got Holy Cross, Houston Christian, North Dakota State, Penn, South Dakota State. So you got the Dakotas covered there. And then Division 3, you've got Colorado State University in Pueblo, Fayetteville State, and Missouri S&T.
What does S&T stand for?
I think it's science and technology.
Science and technology. Okay, I know what A&T means, and I know what A&M means.
Yeah, I believe that's the case. I might be wrong, but yeah, definitely check out that link if you guys want to get more into it. You can see who plays for everybody. In fact, let's check and see if we can Control F this and find Kansas.
They may be in the singles.
Kansas City.
Which they did.
Unfortunately, guys, nobody from the University of Kansas is playing in the Super Bowl tonight or is even on the roster. So
I'd shake hands with that person virtually right now since Miami is shut out also this year, which is a rarity, but it does happen. I don't know. Does Ohio State have anybody in?
Paris Campbell, who was a receiver on the Eagles. But yeah, sorry guys. Kansas State is represented, but not the Kansas Jayhawks. Give them a few years. You guys will get there. You'll get there. Ryan Willie says, I thought Montana won 4 Super Bowls. I believe it's 3. But you might be right. It might be 4. I'm trying to think back. He beat the Bengals twice. He beat the Broncos once. Did he beat the Broncos twice? You might be right, Ryan. I think the 49ers won 5 in total. And I know one of them was with Steve Young. So, but Montana might have won 4. It wouldn't shock me. Becky Go Husky says UCLA always has a stud on their team. They aren't top teams, but they're top players. Yeah, I mean they've got some talent there. They've always got 1 or 2 studs, but they just can never seem to put it together as a team.
Yeah, for sure.
Four. Never forget Jackie Robinson played football at UCLA. My grandfather on my dad's side watched him play versus UW in 1939. Town Hawk asks the correct question: wings or pizza, or wings and pizza tonight?
I mean, it's got to be wings and pizza and really.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I'll probably have wings. I think I'll pass on the pizza because I don't want to drive an hour to get a pizza. Swanger chimes in, wings for him. Becky agrees with Rock and Rant. You want both and then some. Becky chimes in, I don't believe it's rigged, but the NFL does not call everything the same for every player and every team. Ryan Willie lets you know Rodgers and Jets are splitting up. I'm sure you're heartbroken.
I'm crushed.
And you know Rodgers will land somewhere. And
he will absolutely like be in the Super Bowl next
year. He'll be MVP
or,
level again. He'll be the old Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, he will.
Reports are Rodgers was told the Jets are moving on, as they should. Daniel Gygax says over under 2.5 roughing the passer calls. I still think I might take under.
I mean, somebody's got to have a sports book that has like a proposition on who gets the most on camera looks, Taylor or Trump tonight.
Yeah, I looked on FanDuel. I could not find a Taylor Swift prop bet to place. So I wanted to do that, but I did not find that prop bet, unfortunately. Becky Go Husky says, I had the Seahawks growing up. Weren't always fun, but I'm a Mariners fan, so I get her. Hey, again, at least the Seahawks have one Super Bowl.
And like, at least with the Nets, I've seen a World Series in my lifetime, so I can handle that.
Daniel Gygax lets us know I grew up 2 hours south of Pittsburgh, and my dad's family is in the greater Pittsburgh area. So that's his excuse for rooting for the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though he's a West Virginia guy. Ryan Willie chimes in to let us know Brady went to 9 Super Bowls with New England and 1 with Tampa Bay. Listen, you're not going to get any argument from me. He's the greatest quarterback in NFL history. Even if Mahomes does a three-peat tonight, 10 Super Bowls is just insane. Just insane.
I just don't want to hear him on the broadcast tonight. Like him getting roasted on national TV in a 3-hour thing, that I'll listen to him on mic, but I don't particularly like him so far in year one. He's gotten better. I'd rather have others doing the color tonight, but.
All right. Thank you for the super chat, Ryan. We'll give you a little new sounder. I got a clearer Whoa Nelly.
Whoa Nelly!
The great Keith Jackson. And then Becky with another super chat here. By the way, they flew Rodgers to New York to tell him. Now, my question is, did Woody tell him or did his teenage son tell him?
I would think that the new GM and coach did. I hadn't heard that yet. I did see a little bit of report earlier today that they thought that, Schefter was moving on, but maybe Schefter said that they thought they were moving on, but I hadn't seen the definitive things that we're hearing in the chat. But, if you're the new head coach and the new GM, like I think you want to be the ones, even just perception wise for your team, that like you're taking the decision and making it and not having the owner do it. Plus, there's supposedly bad blood there. I mean, in the scheme of would I want to hang out with Aaron Rodgers or Woody Johnson? Like I take Aaron Rodgers every day. I can't stand Woody Johnson. I wish he would sell the team. But I'm okay if they both went to like figure out what new dark tunnel they can go hang out in.
Absolutely. Thank you for the super chat, Becky. Let me see. We got so many new sounds here. I got to find a good one to play for you.
Arresting me for what? I'm not allowed to stand up for myself? I thought this was America. Huh? Isn't this America? I'm sorry. I thought this was America.
That'll be somebody's fan base tomorrow morning.
That what that actually sounds like? If like somebody, if Nate got hit in the head and he wasn't aware of where he was, and then was really animated, that might be him like getting like super wild before he realizes where he was.
That, of course, is Randy Marsh from South Park. The baseball episode. Fantastic episode. Bob Swanger says, I grew up close to State College, so I grew up rooting for the Steelers and Pirates. Again, I don't have a problem with it if you're from Pennsylvania and you root for the Steelers. I hate it when I see people from Central Ohio rooting for the Steelers. You're bandwagon fans. I get it. Rooting for the Browns and the Bengals is a tough, tough life. But if the NFL is rigged, NFL Corporation sure hates Detroit and Cleveland. Listen, I think they set up Detroit pretty well this year. Detroit just dropped the ball. Detroit dropped the ball last year. They were up, 28-0 in that game? And
yeah, I mean, like Detroit, I less think that they dropped the ball and more like how they kept the ball going all season on defense with more than half of their starting guys on IR. I think it just like the clock ran out when you got to a better team. But yeah, it was set up for them. I was bummed. I was hoping that we'd be watching Detroit tonight.
Yeah, and the Cleveland team prior to the move, they actually had some success. They just had some heartbreaking plays in AFC Championship games.
The Bernie Kosar era.
Yeah. Yep. Just heartbreaking losses. The drive, the fumble. You can bring that up to any Cleveland fan, and they'll know what you're talking about. Brady won 7 rings and lost 3 times. Missouri University of Science and Technology. She Googled it. So thank you for Googling it and confirming. Illini Ted lets us know Missouri S&T used to be Missouri at Rolla, but they wanted to promote their tech capabilities. Fair enough.
So I guess that's good because it made people like me have to like use tech to Google them.
Yes. Mr. Monkey says I thought 4 regarding Montana. You guys might be right. You're probably right. The ands are beer, right? I'm going to have a few. I don't know, Becky. I think you probably maybe.
Let's go get drunk.
Yeah.
Maybe cut down a little bit tonight, Becky. Don't go crazy.
Just drink every time they do a 2-shot of Trump and Taylor at the same time, or they go 1-to-1. Like that would be the GT code, but also have speed dial for 911.
Remember, every scoring play we'll get to see one less replay because they're going to do a close up of Taylor Swift. Every time Travis catches the ball, you're going to get a shot of Taylor Swift. I hate it. Daniel
to be
Gygax
clear, I do not hate Taylor Swift. I think hating on her for being there is also equally pathetic as the coverage of her being there is pathetic.
Right. I don't have an issue with Taylor Swift. It's just I have an issue with the TV. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
Can we just get a dedicated Taylor cam? I mean,
I agree.
It was like during the playoffs with Matthew McConaughey on the Texas sidelines. Can we just get a Matthew McConaughey cam? Daniel Gygax says, Moen, no raw cheese pizza today. Again, I don't eat Ohio Valley style pizza. A lot of people around here do. I can't stand it. Will not eat it. Moen, you live an hour from good pizza or any pizza from good pizza. I could get any pizza. Again, what Daniel Gygax is talking about. It's called Ohio Valley pizza. It is disgusting. They basically cook the sauce and then throw the cheese on. They cook the sauce and sometimes they'll cook the toppings and then they throw the cheese on cold and let it's like a Lunchables pizza. And it's disgusting. I hate it. I prefer Columbus style pizza like Donato's, and I have to drive an hour for that. So, but I generally won't buy pizza on Super Bowl Sunday anyway. It's just they're packed. Scavin, yes is here. He says Taylor +5. So he's got the over under at +5. Nathan Campbell, New England, Dallas, and the Steelers have won the most. Who is the greatest QB to never play in a Super Bowl? That's a great question.
It's not Marino went to one, did he? I can't
He
remember.
did play. He did play in a Super Bowl. He didn't win,
That would
but
be
he played.
To me, he's the greatest quarterback to never have won one in the Super Bowl era.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Maybe Dan Fouts of the Chargers. Dan Fouts was a pretty damn good quarterback. Had a lot of
He
yards.
was excellent.
He never made it, as far as I know. So I would go with Dan Fouts. You have any picks that you think?
I'm trying to think like who else would even get there, because even some like random, like sort of interesting players didn't. They got to one. Dan Fouts would be my best guess, and I don't think they made it into one under the Air Coryell era, but if to me he would be the clear cut one if he didn't in fact make it.
Yeah, Fran Tarkington, I think
He
actually.
went to
Yeah, Fran Tarkington went as part of the Minnesota Vikings.
Remember, the Vikings were the Bills before the Bills were the Bills.
Right. Talk to Greg Flugar about it, Stormy Cyclone, because he will tell you of his heartbreak with the Vikings. But I'd put Dan Fouts. As far as I know, Dan Fouts never played in a Super Bowl, and I think that's who I would put at the top of my list. Ryan Willie with another super chat. Montana Super Bowl 16. I think that was his rookie season with the Niners. 19, 23, 24. I believe 16 and 24 are the ones he beat the Bengals in. Yeah, so unfortunately, Pete Johnson couldn't get a half yard. Killed that season for us. But thank you for the super chat, Ryan. Let's give you another sounder while my soundboard is still alive. I forgot to plug it in. Udder's on fire.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's quite pleasant, actually. It's like a gentle tug. Okay, slightly less gentle now. Oh! My udders are on fire!
Of course, that's for our friend Wild Ute, who is the milkman.
He is the milkman. And while we're at it, let's milk for some likes if you're watching over on X/Twitter. If you could shoot over to YouTube and like the show and potentially subscribe if you haven't, that would be awesome for us. It really helps out a lot. And if you're in YouTube already, please smash that like button so we can
absolutely
get this fed into more people who want to watch something more interesting than 97 bad commercials before the good commercials start.
When pregame starts at 10 a.m., it's like, oh, I'll just tune in at 6:30, guys. I don't really need that much Super Bowl feed. But thank you, Ryan Willie, again for the super chat, sir, helping us keep the lights on here. As Rock mentioned, if you're watching us on Twitter or you're watching us on YouTube, give us a like. And if you're not a subscriber, give us a subscribe. Those things help us in the algorithm. They don't cost anything. They're a tremendous help. But again, we appreciate you, Ryan and Becky, for the super chats today. Let's get back up here. I got to find where I was at. New England, Dallas, and Steelers have won the most. Absolutely. I think I hit that one.
Yes, you did. I think it was probably right after a couple after that.
Crushing it at in-state. He's talking about Kansas. Got a good shot at Bremer from Great Bend 2. Top 100 tight end.
Yeah, the thing with the early recruiting rankings is they can change a lot. But the one thing that sort of changed this past year is a lot of the rankings when they got to June, when people's offers were out and they had an idea of the money, there was, they were pretty close to what the finals were. There were definitely flips at the end back into December, but things cemented a lot more early on in the season. So if you can keep that through June, I think you have a good shot of finishing with a high ranked class.
Absolutely. Another super chat from our friend Stormy Cyclone. Moen, what is the drink of choice for Super Bowl? Right before my soundboard dies. Georgia Tech to everybody in the chat. Remember, if you're drinking tonight, drink responsibly. Please don't get behind the wheel of the car.
And don't spill any.
That's my drink of choice for the Super Bowl. Whiskey Whiskey out the bottle. Thank you, Stormy Cyclone, for the super chat. And we're going to get one more in here, I think, hopefully before I run out of battery power. Our friend Ryan Willie, the Evil Badger, has gifted 5 memberships to the College Football Mafia. Nitwit, Les Austin Jr., Jeffrey Bell, Edward Wilson, Rambling On with Zach Jones. You were all gifted memberships by our good friend Ryan Willie, the Evil Badger. Make sure you thank Ryan in the chat if you're here. And if you are not here, go ahead and drop that thank in a comment. I'm sure Ryan appreciates it. Ryan, we appreciate you. Let me see if I can find a new one. Let's do a little Macho Man today.
But the cream will rise to the top. Oh, yeah. Macho madness, yeah.
Thank you again, Ryan. Much appreciated. And with that, the soundboard has officially died. I have to remember to charge it next time. But thank you, Ryan. It is much appreciated, sir. And if you're one of those new members, jump over there to the members video section after the show and check out the new video from Wild U. It's really got some great content in there, especially Florida State fans, Big Ten fans. Lots of great stuff in there. Lots of very, very cool stuff. Thank you again,
some
Ryan.
other channels, people don't, Youth's not forgetting to remember where we've been and what he said before, and taking a whole different take now without giving the history of acknowledging where we might be right, might be wrong.
Yes, Wild Ute has his own receipts, and we touched on that in the video. You can see where we think we messed up, and we've tweaked the algorithm, his little pattern he has for determining who goes where. And that's a thing that's evolving. That's something we do here. We get a lot of fan feedback. We get a lot of feedback within our group here. We've got a lot of great contributors. Becky, Pickles, Dan, Rock, myself, you, Nate. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting anybody out. Illini Ted. We talk with Illini Ted quite a bit. And then all the great fans like Ryan Willie and Nitwit and Stormy Cyclone, Glenn Hanna. I see you in the chat. We get feedback from you guys too. So don't be afraid to leave a comment if you're watching on demand, or you're watching one of Youth's videos and you say, hey, what about X? Let us know about that X, and we could try and factor it into the equation.
Yeah, and another thing on that front, not a members video, but a good video if you're watching right now is to go check out Nate with Rec Talk from the Georgia Tech family over there. Another organic way to do a shot right there, everyone. Also talking to our friend Ryan, who's a lawyer, a sports lawyer who's done a bunch of NIL deals on behalf of collectives and agents, kind of going over the state of what all of that is. So if you've been a realignment fan, you're probably also really into like the state of business and college football. So you should go check that out from this past Wednesday.
Absolutely. Stormy Cyclone reminds me of Immaculate. We won't forget Immaculate. Bob Thompson, the OG, our friend Greg Flugar. We get feedback from lots of people. So, those are very high intelligence people you should be following on Twitter. Immaculate at Immaculate View. Definitely check him out. He just did a podcast with the big mountain people, I believe. So definitely check that out if you get a chance. Jim Kelly, Fouts, and Turkington. Again, Jim Kelly definitely played in 4. I know.
Yeah, for sure.
And again, I'm almost certain Fran Tarkenton played in that Steelers-Vikings game, Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings have lost a few Super Bowls, and some of those were in the 70s, and that was the Tarkanian era. Tarkenton area. Sorry, I wasn't trying to play UNLV basketball.
Warren Moon, a good one. Houston Oilers, of course. I remember I believe it was 35-3 game against the Buffalo Bills in the divisional, and Buffalo came back. Frank Reich, of all people, came in and ended up orchestrating, as far as I know, I think it's still the greatest comeback in NFL history in terms of point differential. Glenn Hanna's in the house, a Ducks fan. I watched part of the SpongeBob version of the Super Bowl last year. They could do a channel like that for the Swifties. Boy. And just remember when football was football. We didn't have SpongeBob versions, Nickelodeon versions, and Simpsons versions. I know they did a Simpsons one recently this year.
Yep, but better to have your daughters and your kids getting into the sport, right? If you want them to watch with you one day, whatever means necessary.
Absolutely, and that's how I got into professional football, sitting at my grandpa's footsteps. My grandpa was a Paul Brown fan, and once Paul Brown left Cleveland, he was done with the Cleveland Browns, and he was a Cincinnati Bengals fan, and that's why I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan. So,
And you only had 3 channels there for your grandpa to probably switch the channel
that's
for
true.
versus like 100,000 channels on your kids.
You know, and the hard thing was, though, living in Central Ohio at the time, you always got either or, because the Cleveland and Cincinnati would be playing at the same time, 1 p.m. on Sunday.
Right.
And some weeks you would get Cleveland, and some weeks you would get Cincinnati. So you couldn't watch. This was before the NFL Network. You could not get all the games. At my grandfather's old house, he had the stack antenna where he could pick up Cincinnati channel so we could watch the games. But once he moved to his other house, the stack did not come with him. So we were kind of left.
I grew up in that era where it was a 2-team market, specifically with the Jets and Giants. And when they were, when they were both bad, all you could really do was watch the replays, because you never saw any other game, because they were always not at the same time. Now they'll be at the same time, but you would get the early and late game, and it was going to be those teams. And if they weren't good, you just had like envy, unless you knew like somebody who had one of those gigantic ass, like space looking satellite dishes in the early days of that.
Stormy Cyclone says, is there an over-under on a marriage proposal after a game with Swift? I could not find any Swift prop bets on FanDuel. I'm not saying there aren't sports books that are taking them. I just couldn't find any. I looked. And they've got prop bets for damn near everything from the
They
coin
have prop
flip
bets
to-
on like how many shots Moen's going to take and how many times Georgia Tech will be mentioned.
That's right. We didn't check and see if anybody from Georgia Tech was on there. We'll have to check that out. Moen, he's right. Montana won 4, young one. Again, I know he won 2 against the Bengals. Again, the drive that put him ahead in that last Super Bowl was a killer for me. I was a young child then, watching my favorite Boomer Esiason and Icky Woods doing the Icky Shuffle, and Joe Montana went in there and just broke my heart. Fran Tarkington, yeah, we talked about that. Fran, I believe, was in with the in there with that. Townhawk says Ryan Leaf. Great. If you guys are a fan of just football in general, or Hunter S. Thompson, look up the letter he wrote to the Indianapolis Colts imploring them to take Ryan Leaf over Peyton Manning. One of the funniest letters you'll ever read, especially in hindsight. I believe Hunter did eventually apologize to Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, when Peyton obviously panned out and Ryan Leaf did not pan out. Yep, the Purple People Eaters. That was the name of the Minnesota defense. Glenn Hanna brings up John Brody. I still think Dan Fouts is probably in terms
Like
of just
a stats perspective, yeah.
Yeah, just in terms of statistics. Had Moon gone straight to the NFL, I have no doubt he would have won a Super Bowl. Never know. Maybe you could say the same thing for Jim Kelly. He did not want to go to Buffalo. He went to play for Houston Gamblers in the USFL. Same thing with Steve Young. Steve Young bypassed the NFL to go to the USFL. There's a lot of what ifs in that era where these quarterbacks were picking USFL teams over NFL. Packers have the most NFL titles overall. Sure, and the Cleveland Browns have titles if you take things before the Super Bowl. They have 4, I believe.
You know what? A thing that people don't really contemplate in this heightened pro era of all the leagues being at like 30 plus is the whole thing of like the Chicago Cubs, going a century without winning. Statistically, even though in theory, a new team could win every year, there are likely to be teams that like don't win for like multiple centuries. Jets are probably one of them.
Randall Cunningham. He was good.
Yeah.
Good. I remember the one. I think he went to the title game against the Giants and lost. I seem to remember that. I forget the Giants kicker's name, but he ended up putting them into the Super Bowl.
Was he never like? Did the Vikings not make it when he was there? Was he ever a backup on a team that went? I don't know. Like I don't recall offhand.
The Vikings never made it when he was there, but I'm thinking of Philadelphia when he was the Philadelphia quarterback. I'm pretty sure they made it to an NFC Championship game against the Giants, and Matt Barr won it with the last second field goal.
Who was the quarterback for the Eagles when Vermeil went?
Oh, Ron Jaworski.
Ron Jaworski, right?
Becky Gohusky says Moon dominated the CFL. He did. Nitwit says, thanks so much, Ryan, for the membership. Very good job, Nitwit. Again, if you received a gifted membership for our friend Ryan Willie, make sure you thank him in the chat. If you're watching on demand, go ahead and thank him in the comments. Watch what the halftime show was like before Michael Jackson changed things. It was Winter Wonderland, and it's a train wreck.
Yeah, there was like the Up With People thing. I mean, for me, the best one ever. If you want to see like the worst one ever and you're too young to know, like go look at Super Bowl Up With People, something like that. Or maybe that was the Olympics, but there were some terrible ones. For me, the best halftime show was Prince.
I believe Up With People was the year the Rams and the Steelers played. I do believe that.
Prince
and
I
agree with you.
Stellar.
The one with Prince where he plays the guitar and plays Purple Rain, and they've got his shadow projected like 50 feet. Another great video. If you go look at Prince playing Why My Guitar Gently Weeps at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction for George Harrison. Unreal. I mean, people don't mention him enough when they talk about guitar gods. Just
all you have to do is see the guitar gods at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame looking at him going, oh my God.
Yeah. Holy shit. Apparently during that thing, he just walked out during practice. He said, okay. Yeah, and then I'll just come on stage and play my part. And they had no idea he was going to go up there and just absolutely murder everybody. What a musician. Cunningham lost to the Falcons in the NFC title game. Montana beat Miami, Denver, and Bengals twice in the Super Bowl. Yeah. Boy, I thought Philadelphia, maybe it was a divisional game that Matt Barr eliminated Philadelphia. And I think maybe it was Dallas in that championship game. But that was a year that the NFC East had 3 teams in. That was a good season for all those teams. Thank you for the super chat, Becky. I can't play you a sound, but I'll give you a little GIF thing here. Thank you again. That field goal does not count on the point spread today. Let me go back up here. I keep losing my place. Becky, 13 total NFL championships. I think he's talking about the Green Bay Packers. Good mentions, Moon and Cunningham. Yep. Trying to think of anybody. Vinny Testaverde, I mean, he was never a world beater, but he was a very passable quarterback. He was in the league for 13, 14 years. He never made a Super Bowl. You're muted, Rock.
It's because you triggered me. Yeah, like the one year the Jets were actually preseason favorites to go to the Super Bowl with Vinny under Bill Parcells, and that's when he got hurt in like game 1 in the season, destroyed itself, or whatever game early in the season, broke his leg.
Yeah. Here we go. Did Vinny just all right, let me try this again. Did Vinny Testaverde play in a Super Bowl? Yeah, I don't think he ever did.
No, because we would know, because we'd be able to count the amount of interceptions that he threw, like the Penn State game in Miami in the Fiesta Bowl. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Illini Ted, did Phillip Rivers ever make the Super Bowl? Nope. Never made it. Moen, FYI, in case I send a super chat, I don't like the milking sounder. Okay, no more milk for you, Ryan. You're into dairy heartland, but you don't like milk. Kenny O'Brien. Boy, they're really just piling on your Jets today.
I mean, you can dunk on the Jets. I do.
Mr. Monkey says Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson working on being this conversation for best to never. I will say this, at least Burrow made it. He made it one year. And this is true. Look up the Kenny O'Brien versus Marino games. O'Brien has Marino's number head to head. But I think we can all agree Marino was the better professional quarterback.
Everyone has like their kryptonite person who can outplay them when it doesn't count the most.
Elena Ted says, do we have any chance of having funny commercials this year? They seem to have really bottomed out in quality in recent years. I don't disagree with you. It used to be a staple to watch a commercial for the Super Bowl, but I'll leave the room when they're on now. Trubisky was picked ahead of Mahomes. Again, at least you're not the Chicago Bears. Could be worse.
I think Sam Darnold for the Jets was picked ahead of Mahomes. I think that was the same year, though obviously he's had a resurgence this year, but not for the Jets.
Which team in the Big Ten has the most on the Super Bowl roster? Let me go through here and I will let you know. Oklahoma and Georgia are the top two.
Michigan?
Overall. Michigan. Yep. Michigan at 4. And then you've got Penn State at 3. So you got a choice between Michigan or Penn State. And I know neither one of them are appealing options, but you're going to have to pick one. I'm going with Philadelphia. They got Paris Campbell on there, an Ohio State player. So Daniel Geiger says Polymarket has a Swift Kelsey proposal at 10 cents to win $1 if it happens at the Super Bowl. It's not bad. 10 to 1 odds. Not bad. Never forget Elway was okay with sitting out a year and playing baseball because he did not want to play in Baltimore for the Colts. You're absolutely correct. And Eli Manning did something similar. He was not going to play for the San Diego Chargers, and they traded him to the New York Giants for Phillip Rivers. I think Phillip Rivers was a better quarterback, but Eli Manning went to the better team.
Yeah, and I think Deion low-key trying to do something similar right now for Shedeur. He's starting the little tweaks in the background, the rumblings are there, whether that actually can play out. Because I don't really know whether Shedeur is a top 6 pick or not in everybody's minds. Maybe some. They only need one.
Yeah, and a lot of it, I still say this to the day, it's a lot of it where you go. I mean, you can be a great quarterback, but if they send you to an absolute bad team with no offensive line, no weapons, you're going to struggle. Ryan Willie says, I still can't believe the fridge stole Peyton's touchdown. Yes, that's still a travesty. Walter Payton did not ever score a touchdown in that Super Bowl, and it seemed like the Chicago Bears scored like 6 touchdowns in that Super Bowl. Not one of them went to Walter Payton. So Stormy Cyclone, a member, says, surprised Flugar didn't let you know Prince was a Minnesota guy. His home was in Minneapolis. He absolutely was a Minnesota guy. I forget the name of his studio up there.
Paisley Park.
Paisley Park, thank you. Steve McNair did go to a Super Bowl. Daniel Dilly, he went to the Super Bowl when the Titans played the Rams.
He went to this one.
Yep.
He went to the missed it by a yard one.
Missed it by half a yard, last play of the game. But, you know, that Eddie George was in that game too. I was rooting hard for the Titans. Becky Bledsoe was on the roster for the first New England Super Bowl win. He also played in a Super Bowl for New England against the Packers when Brett Favre was the Packers quarterback. So Bledsoe did play in a Super Bowl.
In the Bill Parcells era.
Yes, in the Bill Parcells New England Patriots era. All the QBs that played for the Chiefs for about 50 years never went to the Super Bowl.
Well, the Chiefs were in the...
Len Dawson, I think, was, yeah.
Yeah.
No, Yeah, Len Dawson. Montana made it to the championship game and lost to the Bills. Doug Flutie. Yeah, that's.
I thought we were talking about good quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, Rock and Rant's not holding a grudge against Brady for that game against Boston, or Flutie for that game against Boston College at all.
He had like a good season or two for like the New Jersey Generals and a little bit in the NFL, but like there's no ranking where he's like considered to be like a good to upper to even very borderline great quarterback in the NFL.
I got a question for you guys. Who do you guys think was the worst quarterback to play in a Super Bowl? One who actually made it and played. I've got a definite opinion on this. Stormy Cyclone says trailers on Super Bowl look good. Matt Damon, Chuck Norris, etc. Chuck Norris, I can't take Chuck Norris anymore since he got like his 9th facelift. The dude's like 96 years old and he's got his face.
Yeah, he's gone from Delta Force to Delta Farce right now.
Yeah, he's got some silly putty stretched over his face. Stop at 1, guys. I mean, when your eyelids are up by your ears, stop at 1. Flutie started over Breeze. Absolutely never forget the Dolphins passed on Drew Brees. I forget who did they take over Drew Brees? Can't remember.
Exactly.
Yeah. He didn't pan out, obviously, compared to
Grossman.
Yeah. Flutie has Grey Cups. Yep, he did win a Grey Cup in the Canadian Football League. Rec Talk is here and says Rock and Rant is the man.
What's up, Rec Talk? How are you doing, man?
Good to see you, Rec Talk. Glenn Hanna, Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. That was who I was going to pick. That was my opinion. Dilfer, yeah, Dilfer was a terrible quarterback. Won a Super Bowl.
Terrible announcer.
And terrible announcer. Terrible coach in college, too. He's not very good on much stuff. But that was another guy that the infamous Mel Kiper Jr. Bitching that the Colts did not take Trent Dilfer and that he was a guaranteed stud in the NFL. Becky says Jim Plunkett to win a Super Bowl.
Jim Plunkett is Joe Montana compared to Trent Dilfer.
Yeah, Trent Dilfer is really, really bad. He was really bad in that Super Bowl. I mean, that's literally the one time you could say defense won a Super Bowl. It was just purely defense. Rob Ellen brings up when Rex Grossman went against Drew Brees, I believe. Yeah. If your team scores a kickoff return, touchdown, you're losing the game. If that's your first return, if that's the first play of the game, you score a touchdown running it back, you lose that game. That was the same year, I believe Ohio State played Florida in the national championship game. Ted Ginn returned the opening kick for a touchdown, lost the game 42-14. Chicago did something similar. I forget the name of that receiver.
Devin Hester did that.
Devin Hester, thank you. Yeah, he returned it for a touchdown. I said they're losing this game, and they sure enough did. Dolphins took Culpepper because of the shoulder injury. Yes, Dante Culpepper. Rec Talk says, I'm thinking about having a Super Bowl party, inviting my boss over, providing alcohol, and calling the cops on him when he leaves. Do you think this is advisable? This is, man, snitches get stitches. That's all I'm saying. But
I mean, there's a definite way for a promotion potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather just get drunk and, hire some dude to come over there and start making out with him. And then share you have the pictures and be like, hey, these can go to your wife or not. I would not recommend having someone drive drunk.
This sounds like Rec Talk, didn't get the Christmas bonus he was expecting and got a gift certificate.
I don't know if you're a Falcons fan, Rec Talk, but I think you're probably still hurting from 28-3. Stormy Cyclone says, I agree with Becky. Plunkett was the worst.
I just don't know on what planet you can think that Plunkett was worse than Trent Dilfer.
Rex Grossman or Dilfer for worst quarterback in a Super Bowl? Yeah, I think you have to go with Dilfer. Daniel Geiger says, Becky, you're showing your Seattle bias. Rob Ellen said Plunkett had 2. And then he confirms him and Eli are the only two-time champs not in the Hall of Fame. Yes, Eli was up for induction this year and did not make the cut. Becky was going to say Kerry Collins. That would be when he played for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I don't know that I don't think Kerry Collins is the worst. He also did well with the Giants too for a while. So I think he had a decent career. Maybe not, the top notch, but I think he's better than Trent Dilfer.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, I can't find anybody that I think surpasses Dilfer in just complete mediocrity winning a Super Bowl. Illini Ted says Joe Flacco is another option, but Joe Flacco had a really good season that year. I mean, I don't think he was. And hell, I mean, he took the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs when everybody said he was done. I mean, that's got to count for something. Rec Talk says he got pocket lint for my bonus. Have a great game. Got to go lay under a car and change tie rod, shocks, and control arms this afternoon. Stay safe, Town Hawk. Make sure you put safety jacks underneath there. And Becky Go Husky says Collins played versus the Ravens. And I think with that, we're going to leave it, guys. Thank you for joining us on this irregularly scheduled Moen After Dark here on Super Bowl Sunday. I want to wish everybody a happy Super Bowl Sunday. Again, if you drink or imbibe, please do not drive. Go Philadelphia Eagles just because I put $10 on them. But let's go ahead and do our last call here. Last call, Rock and Rant. What do you have to say?
Look, just, there's nothing about this game that's going to get me excited one way or the other. I'm just going to root for the Saquon narrative just to watch Giants fans' heads implode, or maybe not their ownership group and their GM. Maybe we'll get a good commercial here or there. I'm also looking forward to like half of America not knowing who Kendrick Lamar is, even though he's awesome. So that will be interesting for the halftime show to see what kind of special things they pull out. And, definitely want to get into next week because I didn't get to get your take. Actually, one last thing. My last call for you is Brian Hartline, your take, because you were not sure that was going to happen last week. Is he actually going to call plays, or you think it's a promotion?
He is going to call plays. He is absolutely going to call plays. They've already announced that. Had a year under Chip Kelly. I talked about this a little on Friday. The two coaches we could not afford to lose. One of them was Brian Hartline. I think he's the best recruiter in the college game, best position coach in the college game. I'm sure he was probably told that if Ryan Day wins a couple more titles and bounces for the NFL, Brian Hartline will be the next head coach at Ohio State. But now I got a question for you. I know we're doing last call. Before I get to my last call, what do you think Kendrick Lamar plays not like us? And do you think everybody in the stadium chants not in A minor?
I think he's going to play that. Whether the chant will come back, I don't know. It would be awesome, though. It would be awesome. Google it, guys.
Obviously, my last call for tonight is just telling everybody have a good Super Bowl Sunday. Relax, just enjoy the game. If you don't have a team in it, just enjoy the game, guys. I mean, it's all fun.
Last meaningful game for 193 days.
Fox has reminded us that spring football returns in March with the UFL. So,
like I said, the last meaningful game for like 193 days.
Good football is gone until August, but if you want to watch some really not great football in stadiums with 100+ people, check out the UFL in March. Again, UFL, I can fix that whole program for you. Just give me a call, man. You can have fans in the stands. You can have good teams. Just get out of some of these markets you're in, man. Don't try and compete in NFL markets. Get out of NFL markets. So for myself, for Rock and Rant, I want to say thank you to everybody who tuned in. Obviously, thank you for the support. Becky Go Huskies, Ryan Willie, Stormy Cyclone, and Brian Willie. Thank you for the super chats and the gifted memberships. Again, if you received a membership for Ryan, please thank him in the comments if you weren't here live in the chat. And with that, we are out. Everybody have a good Super Sunday.